Patrick, time to get to TV news. Not much TV news happened over the course of the last week because it was a holiday, but there is one story that has set the internet into a tizzy. And that is Lucas Shaw's newsletter, Bloomberg Scream Time, in which he talks about Netflix's second season conundrum. I'll just read a couple of excerpts from this newsletter. Netflix is struggling to get viewers to stick with its shows for more than a season. One Piece, one of Netflix's most watched shows of 2023, lost more than 30% of its audience for the second season. Season 2 of Beef suffered a drop of more than 70%. The Night Agent shed 50% of its audience for the second season and another 35% for its third season. These figures are all through the first 4 weeks of a show's release and come straight from Netflix. Adding insult to injury, the last season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of Netflix's most watched titles of 2024, suffered a drop of more than 60% over week 1. That doesn't bode well for the rest of the month, end quote. So essentially, Netflix is having trouble getting people to return for subsequent episodes or subsequent seasons of its hit shows. Now, I saw Lucas Shaw post this story on his various social channels, and the overwhelming response from a lot of people was, well, that's what happens when you wait 2 to 3 years between shows. And
great impersonation. I love it.
Of the internet. Thank you, Patrick. And what Lucas took great pains to correct people was this is happening with shows even where there is not a huge gap between seasons. Now, I, David Chen, have some theories as to what's going on, right? Number one, I do think that the gap between seasons does play a role. Even if the specific show you're watching doesn't have a 2-year gap, we are conditioned to expect 2 to 3 year gaps between seasons now. And that might allow people to lose interest. Someone pointed out online that if you have like a YA show, like a show that's supposed to be for young adults, and you have like a 2 to 3 year, like 6 to 8 episodes for season 1, 2 to 3 year gap for season 2, 2 to 3 year gap for season 3. By the time you've gotten to season 3, the person has aged out of the show, right? And it's like, what are we even doing here? So I do think gaps between seasons play a huge role. In addition, Ryan Broderick over at his Garbage Day newsletter pointed out that there is a Netflix season 3 curse, which is a oft-repeated gripe from viewers that the streamer tends to cancel the majority of their shows before the third season, end quote. And that is for financial reasons, but the short version of the story is, in general, it benefits Netflix to have launch a show more than it benefits them to continue a show. When you launch a show, you can have all this marketing. Hey, new show. Ryan Johnson is making a show with Natasha Lyonne called Poker Face, but then season 2, you can't, it's not as big of a deal. It's hard to get interest to retain. And so then it's like, well, let's just cancel the show and then we'll just launch a new show instead. Like it's better from a viewership perspective, from a marketing perspective, from other perspectives to basically launch a new show rather than to continue investing in the old show. In my opinion, the metrics that they are looking at are sometimes the wrong ones, or they don't fully capture the totality of what you need to be looking at, right? Netflix looks at metrics around, let's say, binge watching, right? Hey, let's drop the episodes all at once. Oh, if we drop the episodes all at once, more people get to the last episode than if we do it week by week. That's a conclusion that they came to a long time ago. What that doesn't capture is people's investment in the show. Like that is an intangible thing you can't capture in that metric, right? Is if I'm talking about it every week, if I'm telling friends about Widow's Bay every week, if I'm listening to Decoding TV podcasts about it every week, I'm more invested in the show than if I don't do any of those things. And so when I get to season 2, I'm more likely to want to watch. So essentially, I think like there's a bunch of different factors at play. There's time between shows. There's the fact that they're a release binge model. There's the fact that Netflix keeps canceling shows before they get to season 3. All these things combine to make it so people just don't feel like investing in Netflix shows. Patrick, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. What do you think?
I think one thread that might tie a lot of that together is, do people sign up for Netflix because they care about Netflix, or do they sign up for Netflix because that's where the TV is? Mm-hmm. And I think in some ways is what we're seeing here illustrating, do people have a passion for Netflix, or is that just where the stuff is? In the same way that, do people have a passion for AMC, or is that where the movies are? Right. And Netflix, may have an issue in which they're not able to develop a lot of actual brand loyalty. They've become
Right.
a warehouse for television. So people show up and they treat Netflix as a long form version of YouTube or TikTok, in which it's a different form of, I need something to watch. I spin the wheel. I look at the
Right.
top 10. I look at the recommendation algorithm. It is destination app opening in the sense that that's where all the stuff is. But is someone sitting down and going, whew, let's see what Netflix has got on tonight? Or is like, let's just see what's on Netflix. And like capturing an audience that size, even if they are not necessarily deeply passionate about the platform itself, is still obviously enormously, like, has produced an enormous financial success. But I do wonder if something that Netflix is going to wobble against as they go forward, and is reflective of them investing in cutting deals with YouTube creators, hosting live podcasts, is we need to indulge in other people's habits, because what Netflix has become is a habitual opening of the app to see things that are there, not necessarily, I'm so excited to see the new season of this, in which there are much rarer exceptions for that, right? So that's a challenging problem for the scale at which they operate, because Netflix does not really have, here's what we offer. It's like, well, they offer everything. And I think that is contributing to a buffet is delightful, but it's also a buffet. And a buffet comes with its own risks.
And it comes with its own risk. Like, you don't invest too much in any one aspect of the buffet necessarily.
Right.
What's your favorite buffet item, Patrick Klepek? when you go to buffet, what's the thing that you like at a buffet? I'll say here, I'm going to put this out there. When I go to buffet, I'm always delighted when they have a little omelet bar. Like a guy or a girl, like, who's there to just literally make an omelet for you. I love that.
That was good. So I would say, I don't know that I have a specific item as much as a specific type of a breakfast buffet.
Yeah.
If I have to pick one, that's what I want. Like, ooh, like, I don't want that much yogurt and granola, but like, it's right there. Like, we'll just have some. Like, ooh, like half a bagel. Ooh, an omelet. Like, that is my favorite style. Like,
yeah,
because
just getting a little bite of everything.
Well, and also breakfast food has, in general, can be like pretty good at like a lower bar of quality and like still be satisfying, as opposed to, I don't know that like some of my favorite lunch and dinner foods survive the buffet experience nearly as well as breakfast foods.
Yeah. But I think your point is basically that Netflix's positioning doesn't necessarily inspire loyalty around its shows in the same way that, say, an HBO or even an Apple TV might, right? Like, I think Apple TV, people have shows that they are loyal to on Apple TV, like Ted Lasso, Silo, despite the fact that there's a really silly amnesia plotline this season, right? Like, you're kind of loyal to these shows on Apple TV in a way that people aren't as loyal to shows on Netflix, because Netflix has so much other stuff. And also, Patrick, in my opinion, Netflix has not treated loyalty as a thing to earn from its customers. Like,
Yes.
it has not treated the loyalty of its customers with the care that it deserves. And as a result, according to Lucas Shaw here, quote, Netflix's inability to retain audiences will only fuel the growing investor concern about engagement. The amount of time customers spent watching Netflix last year grew less than 2%. That's a big reason shares in the company declined over the last year. Investors are worried that Netflix, while still the clear market leader, is losing its edge, end quote. By the way, one of the only shows to increase in viewership over time is Bridgerton, which had its 4th season premiere in the first 5 months of 2026. I'm going to put this out there. Until Netflix starts investing in shows in ways that are counter to what its metrics show are best. So until Netflix starts giving a show a season 3, 4, or 5, even when the algorithm says it's not a good idea,
take risks.
Until it's to take risks and until it starts releasing shows week by week and saying, even though the metrics say we're going to get more retention if we release it all binge watch, we're going to do it week by week to build buzz. Until Netflix starts doing those things, it will continue to struggle with retaining viewers from season to season of its shows. That is my guess. I highly doubt it's going to change anything it's saying. I don't think they listen to Decoding TV, but maybe they will one day when they're running out of ideas. But I think they're in pretty bad shape. Like honestly, some of these numbers are pretty shocking to me. I watched Beef season 2, right, and I thought it had some really nice elements to it. But yeah, they lost 70% of viewership over the first 4 weeks compared to Beef season 1. And a big part of that too, by the way, is people don't know that the show is out. Right, it's years afterwards. It drops arbitrarily. What they were doing back then when they launched the service might not be good enough right now. So, anyway,
it doesn't take long for a stink to get on something. Like it'll be very interesting to see what happens if there's a vibe shift at the perception of Netflix, because that stuff has a tendency to tumble like in a direction. I'm not saying that Netflix is about to crash or like not be popular a year from now, but no Titan lasts forever. And it's only with hindsight that you realize how deep the cracks in the foundation were beyond, like, you know, we're seeing this happen, you know, in video games with Xbox, where it's like you can paint your pretty picture for a long time till someone comes in and looks at it from a slightly different lens and goes, oh God, like what were you building here? And so again, I'm not predicting the fall of Netflix like is imminent, but were we to look back in 5 years, like, oh wow, like Netflix really ended up slipping.
Right.
I'd be like bits like this, connected to like, haste to canceling shows like The Burrows, like may be a contributing factor, like in a much broader sense of what it's never one block. It's a bunch of blocks coming out simultaneously that are part of a, as you said, deeply data-driven strategy in which, I think on some level they're caught in the sauce. And it's like, it's worked for a long time, but at a certain point you gotta step aside and take some direction of your own. And I feel like Netflix has gotten away from that a little bit.
Absolutely. Patrick, if we were in the post-apocalyptic disaster movie about Netflix, this is the first act where the scientists are saying, hey, there's a cold front coming in that's going to last about 18 years. We better do something about it. And Netflix right now is like the people in charge of the government that are saying, don't worry about it. The data says everything is going fine. They need to change things up. I don't know about you anecdotally, Patrick. I've had so many people say to me, I'm not even going to bother to get invested in that show because Netflix cancels their shows after like a year or two. It's kind of like using a Google service, right? Like Google launches a new, hey, there's a new thing that makes it easier to make your phone calls or whatever. It's like, well, they're not going to support that in 5 years. So like, why even bother using it, right?
Or just wait. Just wait, right? Like find out if it's...
Yeah, just wait. Just see if it lasts to season 4. And if not, then like... And, say what you will about Apple TV shows, which often don't get very much viewership, but they invest in their shows over time. Like shows that have very little viewership, they're like, you know what? There's an audience here. We're going to keep nurturing it over time. And I think they are slowly being rewarded for that with a lot of brand loyalty. Like I think a lot of people have more loyalty to like Apple TV than to Netflix. And just because that there's going to be a Slow Horses season 6, there's going to be a Silo season 4. And that's valuable to people because your time is valuable.
We had a great time rewatching Stranger Things with my kids who are 9, almost 10, and my youngest who's 6, and we watched all of it together. It was like nightly appointment viewing with our children to try and work through most of an episode every evening and watch the entire show. Rewatched it with them. It was a complete blast. And then we wanted to I tried to recapture that. It was like, hey, this was like such a fun family bonding experience. I did some research online trying to find what are shows, Stranger Things adjacent, or I was just like, let's watch a bunch of trailers for a bunch of shows and see if anything hits us. And we'll try a couple of different pilots and see if there's a show that the whole family wants to stick with. Sadly, we've ended up finding nothing, but that's sort of besides the point of the story, which is as I was researching different lists of shows, I made a point to look up, did they finish? And on lists of shows that people were recommending, I would say half of them did not finish. And then I would lop those off as options for us to even consider watching a trailer of, because the last thing I wanted to do was...
Don't get so excited about it.
Like watch a season or 2 seasons of a show, and it's like, you got to go read the books to see how it ends. I'm like, well, we're just not even going to go down that. And it was shocking. It was a coin flip on whether a show managed to finish out its adaptation or its run. I had a list of like 12 shows, and then I whittled it down to 6. And it wasn't because, oh, these are the shows I think that'll work best. It was because these shows don't finish. And like that is that's a pretty bad attrition rate on shows being able to narratively conclude.
Yeah, that's a great point as well, Patrick. I also saw people bringing up this point, which is the number of episodes. We've talked about this before on Decoding TV, but with the current way that TV is being produced, you get, not only are the episodes spaced farther apart, right? Like you have years to wait between episodes, but the number of episodes is dramatically lower. We used to get 22 episodes a season in 1 year, and then 4 months later, another 22 episodes. And what a beautiful time it was. And now we don't have that. So if you compare Lost, which aired over 6 years, there were 121 episodes of Lost, right? Compare that to Stranger Things, which had 42 episodes over 9 years, right? That's way fewer episodes, way more time. And just as a result, I know Stranger Things is a huge success, but like even their most successful show, it's like you just have a lot less time spent with these characters in that world. And I do think that also makes a difference in terms of people's willingness to come back to the show.
And the shows, if they were meant to be engineered to have more episodes and come back sooner, would just be different shows, right? Like the scale of Stranger Things is so much bigger than the scale of Lost. As big as Lost felt at the time relative to other things on TV. Like if you actually go back and watch it, it's like we're on a beach, we're in rooms. Like it's actually like it picks its moments. Stranger Things never picked its moments. Like everything was like, this is a natural consequence of movies as television shows. And it's like it doesn't matter what your production process is like. It doesn't matter how fast you work. It doesn't matter if you just get the same team back together, the fastest team, the most efficient team is not going to be able to create 8 to 10, movies at like in a year. You can't. So then you have to do is you just have to stop making movies. Like, but there is an addiction of scale in Netflix and other places. It needs to be
bigger. It needs to be better. It needs to be more attention grabbing.
And I just don't know. I think a lot of these services have conditioned themselves to think that is fundamentally a requirement to get in the door. I think you look at things like The Pit, and I think there's a place for it, but I think they've gotten the formula wrong, like the proportions wrong. In which, even if you take Stranger Things, like if that show had managed to do like 6 or 7 seasons, like but had less scale, like is it a worse show? I think it's probably a better show, honestly, actually. But it requires a different mentality, and it's a scaling down of like the cinematic ambitions, but investing in characters. Like that's what TV can do, is an investment in characters and worlds that movies fundamentally cannot. And that requires a rethinking of the shows you develop and make. And that is not the switch that has necessarily happened yet.
Absolutely. Well, regardless of how Netflix evolves over time, we will be covering it here on the Decoding TV podcast. Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.